Today I'm going to talk about electric cars, and I am inside my electric car, which is a Reva. This is an 11-year-old car, and it works beautifully. Electric car manufacturers today have proved that cars and even the bikes, electric cars can be much faster. They can go for much longer durations, and they have a lot more torque. Now, electric cars have zero emission, zero. While you can see smoke, and sometimes you can't even see the smoke in internal combustion engines, but you know they are polluting. When you're stuck in a traffic jam, the internal combustion engine is burning fuel all through the time that you're in a jam. Most of the energy is being used just to keep the engine on. In an electric car, there are much fewer moving parts than in an internal combustion engine, and that too operating at normal temperatures, unlike the high temperatures or the explosive conditions that the internal combustion engine operates on. This also means that the maintenance of these cars, the electric cars, is way lower. One strange added advantage when you're driving an electric car is that you're moving around with a battery pack. Once in this car itself, I kept the lights on to see how long the battery would last. And it took 7 days for the lights to go off or the battery to die. Now imagine how useful this can be in case of an emergency. You could be stuck somewhere in the snow, or you're stuck in a forest, and your car will be alive for 7 days. So think about it. You have a battery pack, and anytime in case of an emergency, you can just plug into your car. And the smart homes these days are so efficient that maybe the car battery can run the entire home. The problem is that firstly, your mind has to be around the electric car, because you need to plan when to charge it, because it has to be charged for a couple of hours, 6-7 hours. Then you have to remember to charge it, because if you forget to charge it, then it's pretty unforgiving, because if it stops in the middle of the road, there's pretty much nothing that you can do except for push it back home. Now this is something that I can't help but agree. I mean, there is a problem there. See the chain of events that brings oil till your car. There are people who make lots of money for oil explorations, for extraction of oil, refining the oil, then transporting the oil and storing huge quantities of oil, then transporting it across continents, to the countries, to the distribution systems, to the retail outlets. There's money being made at every stage to the tune of maybe hundreds of billions of dollars in total. Nations have become global leaders in the last century just by manufacturing cars alone. Now, why would anybody want electric cars to come in and throw such a spanner in the work that the earnings don't just become less or half, they almost cut down to zero? Now imagine this. Imagine you earn $200,000 a month, and I come and tell you that there is a way of doing things which will be very good for the environment. But the only side effect is that you will now be earning $10 a month. Would you do it? I would never do it. So why do we expect the government to do it from any part of the world? Conceptually, you can make an electric car at home, power it by solar panels, and you have a sustainable transport solution for the rest of your life. Now, why would anybody want that? Why would the government want that? If you look at the distribution of gas cylinders in India, the solution lies there. This simple solution takes care of the government issues of control and earnings, and it takes care of all the woes that the customers could have from the electric car. The idea is very simple, and it allows the performance of the electric car to be enhanced as much as we want, because the issue of the charge in the battery is totally removed. Anytime the battery is low, you don't have to worry about it and charge it for hours. There would be many battery modules in a car. SUVs would have more, smaller cars would have less, and bikes could have just one or two. All you have to do is go to the nearest charging station and replace the module of the battery that you require. Some people will jump up and say, "Are you mad? Have you ever lifted a battery?" So what? Here again we can use the same mechanism that ambulances have, where the stretcher with the person can be put into the ambulance or taken out and wheeled out by one single person. We can have a similar fold-out mechanism in the modules of the batteries. Or we could just have a simple trolley type system. Basically, there are many ways of dealing with this non-issue of the weight of the battery. If you get stranded somewhere, you can just order a battery pack and it can come in a service car. Or you could even get it delivered at home, just like a gas cylinder is done. You order it on the phone and it gets delivered. The charging in the modules can be done in such a way that people cannot charge it even if they wanted to. It would require a huge infrastructure with a certain amperage and voltage of current that only the government owns. See, the government is in power again if it controls the distribution and the regulation system. Now these battery modules, similar to the gas cylinders, can be owned and controlled by the government, and it's just rented out to us. We pay for the amount of charge that we want to use, and that gets done at the filling stations. This system seems to be a win-win for everybody. Governments are happy and the consumer issues have been taken care of. But still, I think the free energy people will debate that why give control to the government?